Hey folks, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another one of our weekly My Hero Academia Season 4 discussion videos, and today we are here to talk all about Episode 18, or Episode 81 overall, School Festival. But before we get into the video proper, I do, as always, want to give a big thank you to those of you who shared last week's video over on Twitter. At Harrison K VGC, at Bubba Lubber, at Janeme, at Jave Jones Riot, at Sirius9752, at Matt87Eagle, and at Kisachan94. Thanks so much for sharing last week's video over on Twitter, everybody, and if you too would like to have your name shouted out in next week's My Hero Academia video, then be sure to share this video around on the internet, and then tag me at JoJo Talks Too Much over on Twitter, and I will be sure to shout your name out in next week's video. Okay, so with that said, there are 3 things that we gotta talk about in regards to this week's episode, even though it seems like a slow episode, so you wouldn't think that there'd be 3 separate things we gotta talk about instead of the usual 1 or 2. But alas, there is in fact 3. We gotta talk about the school festival, we gotta talk about our check-in, or check-up, I suppose, with Eri, and we gotta talk about these internet celebrity baddies that we encounter in this week's episode. I am vaguely familiar with them based off some stuff that I saw on Twitter, because manga fans can't help themselves, but I don't know anything that happens to them, so I've only seen their character designs, and I mean, I saw them previously anyway when they announced, like, hey, what's his name? Gentle Criminal and La Brava are gonna be showing up in this season, and I was like, I know them from manga panels. Anyway, I don't know why I'm telling you guys that. Let's go ahead and jump into it and start with talking about the school festival. The school festival, I'm just gonna be real with you. I agreed with Kirishima, and I mean, I typically agree with my boy, but like, yeah, I do think he was right to question why the school festival was happening in the first place, given everything that's been going on up until now. It seems like the villains are really climbing their way to the top. They're desperate. They're making these big plays. Like, heroes are dying. It seems like a really tense situation, and even the students are aware that this is what's happening on the outside while they're learning. The world outside is kind of falling apart. Not so much falling apart, but it's going to hell in a handbasket. So the idea of doing a school festival might seem silly initially, and I did agree with Kirishima, but when Aizawa, my husbando, pointed out that it's also sort of important to have this, especially given that the hero class, or the hero studies kids, already had their big festival with the sports festival. So this is more so to celebrate the other students at UA, so the sport heroes, the general studies characters, and the business characters. So this is where they get to shine, and it's a little bit hypocritical for the heroes to not want to participate in this festival. And on top of that too, I couldn't help but think about Night Eye, because Aizawa points out, like, at a time like this, we need to be cheerful. There needs to be something to be happy about. And I couldn't help thinking Night Eye, because Night Eye, when he left, the one thing he said was to smile, because a world without laughter and comedy and humor and just good-heartedness is not a world worth really fighting for. And I have to agree. So initially, while I did think that the school festival felt, I suppose, out of place, this little moment where they address why the arc is even happening felt kind of appropriate to me. I'm glad that they actually out and out addressed it. And the idea of the school festival also allows our characters to heal up and actually expand as a cast, since we actually get to see the group's different decisions on what they would like to do for their event in the school festival. And you get to see the different characters' opinions on, like, what they would like to see. As an example, Mina shouts for a dance, Kaminari shouts for a maid cafe, because of course he does, and then Mineta tries to make it all gross, because of course he does, and everybody's just throwing out different opinions. Koda says, like, a petting zoo, which I was, like, totally for. I was like, yes, petting zoo. But then Seto rightfully points out, like, or it's not Seto, sorry, Sero points out that, like, a petting zoo would be really difficult to upkeep, and that's kind of a mess. And I was like, that's a good point, not Spider-Man. Like, that's a good point. I don't think any of the students would be willing to pick up animal poop for the entire day, because, yeah, pet and zoo, that's a lot of poop. I don't know if you guys ever really thought about it, But yeah, that's a lot. So I appreciate that this actually got to show off the different characters' personalities, because even though we've gotten to know these characters quite a bit, characters like Jiro, who is seemingly going to be one of the major players in this arc, are still characters that we don't really know a whole bunch about. Even like the other characters are surprised when Todoroki's like, actually, I have an idea. We can do like a rock show. We can have like, and Minetta's like, are you turning into one of those party hard kind of guys? And he's like, no. I just think this is a good idea. And I liked that Todoroki is putting that effort in. But even Mina's like, whoa, I'm getting help from a really unexpected source. And it's true, because it's like, well, I never really saw that side of Todoroki, that he would like sit on his computer and watch YouTube videos of rock bands. Like, I know he says like, it's just something I stumbled across, but a part of me is just like, is that how you spend your evenings, Todoroki? Like your free time, you're like Todoroki's really, like, my new headcanon is that Todoroki is really into like indie rock, and he likes looking up indie bands on YouTube, or the My Hero Academia equivalent of YouTube. I don't know, it was just really fun. And I liked that the whole class turned to Jiro, because again, it fleshes those characters out, gives them a little bit more to do outside of is hero does good. Now it's is hero does good, likes rock music. And again, it's a little touch, but it makes them a little bit more interesting. And I like the fact that Jiro is hung up on the fact that her hobby does not, quote unquote, help her hero activities. They address earlier that like Mina, with her breakdancing, actually helps her during the midst of a fight, because she's able to bust out all these crazy moves, right? Like, it actually is helpful for what she does. Characters like Sato, his baking actually helps him, since he needs sugar rushes to actually activate his power, so that makes sense. And you can even stretch it to Deku's hero analysis actually helping him in the midst of a fight. So for Jiro, she's sort of hung up on the fact that her hobby doesn't really help as a heroic hobby. But as the other characters point out, like, no, it makes people smile. When they hear you playing music, when you're teaching them how to play music, that makes them happy. And that smile is what most heroes are going for. So it actually does help in a way that you just maybe weren't expecting. And I don't know, I like seeing the gang kind of come together and talk. And anytime Class 1A is like together and having fun and thinking stuff out and just chit-chatting, it's just fun and cute and really funny. And I don't know, I just thought this was a really sweet scene. And speaking of sweet scenes, I do want to quickly address the check-in with Eri. I don't have as much to say about this, but I would feel remiss to not mention it. And that is that I love seeing the fact that the show is not leaving Eri and Mirio by the wayside. A lot of folks in the comments were like, I promise you the show is not going to forget them. Because you guys may remember, I was really worried. Because in other shonen series, the fact that Mirio loses his quirk, the fact that Eri's in the hospital would mean that they are persona non grata for a while. But here, that's not quite the case. They actually do keep these characters around, since to me, I was worried because I was going to be upset if they disappeared, because it feels like they would have such a grand impact on Deku that you would have to continue to see them, because he would feel weird about just ditching them, which is not what Deku does, and I'm so relieved. Eri basically requests to see Mirio and Deku, who she only knows as Lemillion and the guy who saved me. She didn't even know Deku's friggin' name, which I didn't even think about the fact that she didn't know who Deku was. Like, she knew who he was, but didn't know his name that whole time. And I was like, whoa, like, I actually didn't even really think about it until the show addressed it. So I actually thought that was a really neat touch. And it was cute, the fact that she calls them by their hero names, right? It's not Mirio and Midoriya, it's Izuku and Lemillion, because he's still Lemillion. I don't care if he doesn't have his quirk, he is always going to be Lemillion to me. He's always going to be Lemillion to Eri, and I'm pretty sure he is always going to be Lemillion to all of you listening to me right now. But it was, I don't know, this scene was just sweet. I feel like it was needed. I feel like a lot of the scenes in this episode were very much needed. This whole arc feels needed. Like, it's just a break from the madness that was the overhaul arc, the intensity of what I assume to be the next arc. Again, I'm not a manga reader, but manga friends of mine who have read the manga, obviously, have told me, like, there's some stuff coming up that's gonna blow your mind, some really intense stuff, and this arc is very much needed. This sort of, like, squished between two big arcs, two really intense arcs, you need that sort of calm, relaxed nature. And I suppose that's like what you get here, right? Because Eri is still bummed out. She's still basically in the shadow of Overhaul. It's something that hasn't really changed for her. Even though he's gone, that shadow lingers over her. We even see that in like one shot in the episode where his shadow still has this hold over her when she tries to smile and just is not sure how to do it. And that's the thing too, right? It harkens again back to the whole Night Eye thing, where Night Eye told them to smile. Eri can't. She genuinely can't form a smile. She's not capable of it right now. And she even says, like, how do I even do that? Like, it's not something that she's even really that familiar with, smiling of all things. It's heartbreaking, but again, like, given her character and what she's been through, it makes total sense. And I'm starting to see where the arc is probably going to go. I have a feeling the rest of the arc is basically just going to be about taking Eri to the school festival and working on the school festival to make sure it's top form so that when Eri shows up, she has such a good time that she eventually smiles. And the whole, like, this whole fallout from the Overhaul arc about smiling, just finding things to smile about, to be happy. It's what a hero's supposed to do. And I just feel like that's what this whole arc is leading up to, is getting Eri to smile, which is an admirable goal. I approve of that. But the only hiccup, the wrench in the machine right now for me, is these internet celebrity baddies. And that is Gentle Criminal and La Brava, because I don't see currently how they factor into this arc. I was, in fact, really surprised to see villains at all. I really wasn't expecting villains in what is seemingly a chill school festival arc, but now we have these baddies here. And in the preview, they even say, like, the stare of Gentle Criminal is lingering on the back of our necks, and I'm like, what is this dude's plan? They seem very goofy. Like, they seem like goofy villains, and I use villains in air quotes because Gentle's interesting. I thought he was robbing the place. And whoever does his editing, please reach out to me, man, because you can edit for me. I don't know if that's La Brava. I don't know if they hire an editor, but they're basically YouTube villains, I guess. It's interesting. Whatever Horikoshi is planning to do with these characters, I cannot say. I don't know where this arc is going. Or at least I thought I did until the introduction of Gentle Criminal and La Brava. I knew that they were going to show up in this season, but this arc was a surprise. I just wasn't sure what they would be doing, and I'm still not sure what they're going to be doing. I suppose they're going to try to attack the festival, but, like, how does that fit in? Or is it just going to be like, and now we have a fight for the sake of having a fight in the middle of what is otherwise a chill arc? I don't know, but I'm genuinely excited to see it. Like, Gentle as a villain is just intriguing to me. Like, why didn't he take the money? Why didn't he, like, did he actually hurt those heroes? Or, like, what was up with, like, the store being all wibbly wobbly at the end there? Like, what was up with the tea? Him and La Brava seem like more of a comedy duo than, like, straight up baddies. So I'm really curious to see what's up with these two. And yeah, this episode overall, it had me curious to see where we're going. But with that said, everybody, I'm going to wrap up my thoughts here. I would say that this episode's sort of like a cup of green tea, you know? It's kind of necessary. Sometimes you need a cup of green tea, whether you're feeling under the weather or it's just something you need for, like, the pick-me-up. Yeah, it's like a cup of green tea. And with that said, that is a wrap on today's video. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, then go ahead and hit that like button. Maybe even consider sharing the video around on the internet. And go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you want to stick around and see more content from me. And if you do, be sure to click on that bell icon so that you'll know immediately when a new video of mine comes out. And if you want to go above and beyond, then consider checking out our Teespring store and grabbing yourself a mug, or checking out our Patreon page, which really helps support the channel. And speaking of our Patreon page, I want to give a big thank you to those of you who support the channel over on Patreon. Andrew W., Calvin A., Crowbar of Irony, Daniel G., Digger the Fox, Emily, Ionos, Urza, Ginkotaku, Godzilla Fan, No For Nothing, Maria Teresa, Marshall B., Mirth Mouser, Cell, Shadow Creative, Stephen G., Sakochi, Tristan G., and Veridin. A huge thank you to all of you who support this channel over on Patreon, and if you too would like to join the T Squadron, then be sure to check out the link in the description to check out our Patreon page and get access to our Patreon exclusive Discord for as little as $1 a month. And with all that said, I want to once again thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have an awesome day, and if you are feeling stressed out today, then you go have yourself a warm cup of tea, and I will talk to you all again real soon.